we have so many people online already. It's 2:00 and this is supposed to be our hello segment. We want to kind of get to know people who are actually joining us online. So if anyone would like to turn on their camera, say hi, and tell us where you're calling from.
Yeah, especially those joining us for the first time.
Hi guys, unfortunately I cannot turn on my camera, but just wanted to say hi to everyone and thank you so much for inviting me to this call. I'm very excited to have this virtual tour and hopefully next time you'll be able to see my face.
What are you doing?
But thank you so much for inviting me.
What are you doing that you cannot turn on the camera?
I'm actually not feeling so well today, so like
just kidding.
I spare you my view, my side.
Oh, come on. Just kidding.
Thank you for joining us anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. My business partner is connecting to her name is Rosella, so she's
okay.
also be tuning in.
And then we have Bennett from JTC, whose spirit is with us, but his soul isn't.
Hi Bennett. I think he's still on the call, but maybe he'll join us soon. So
okay. Hi Bennett. We will embrace your spirit, and then the rest of you can join later.
Oh, Nithya is sharing screen. Oh, she's not.
Oh, Shane has. Wow, Shane, you are definitely, going on an evolutionary rampage and leaving all of us behind. You got the beard, mohawk, acid thing going.
Oh, hi Naomi. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Oh, you're on mute.
Oh, cool.
Hello, everyone.
Naomi.
Hello, hi.
Hello.
So Naomi, oh, who's someone sharing screen? Who's that? Nithya.
Yeah, keep sharing.
Nithya. Looking forward to what she's got to show us.
What are you showing us, Nithya?
Nithya, what are you giving us?
Goddess of durian.
What is loving lip?
Oh, hi Kai. Kai has introduced himself. He's the co-founder of Insecta, Singapore's first black soldier fly farm.
Hi Kai. Do you want to show your feet? Just say hi to everyone.
Kai's a lady, I think.
Yeah.
Oh.
No worries. That's what happens when you can't see someone's face.
Yeah.
Wait, Kai is a lady?
Yep.
Yeah.
Kai.
Oh, what a beautiful name for a man and a woman.
Oh, Tai Ling is in as well.
Hello. Yeah, so Naomi was one of our delegates for Audacity's summit that happened 2 or 3 weeks ago. She is an architect and a researcher. She was at PTH Zurich, and she has also done pretty cool dialogues between cross-disciplinary experts, right? When we talk about cities of the future. Naomi, you want to say hi and tell us more about
hi everyone. Yeah, thanks for letting me just say hi and join you guys today. I might not be able to stay for long, but yeah, I've been with the Future Cities Lab here for the past 8 years. I'm an architect and urban planner, but I'm mainly interested in high density urban environments, and particularly their kind of future imaginaries and what we need as a society to be better prepared for our future.
Cool, thanks. I really like your site, it took me 3 days to figure out how to make it work. I realized that I had to scroll.
That's a bad sign though.
I just shared her site on the chat, and but it's so cool. Like you scroll in and then you start to zoom in into
correct. It's very much work in progress. So yeah, keep checking it out.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Naomi, I think you like what we have installed today. Yeah, I think we're really looking into how we can improve our living in cities, which I think inevitably has to be high density. Yeah. I think it's easy to run away from the problem, to say like, oh, let's just ditch the city and like start from scratch and like ignore all the existing problems. But I think we're more of trying to situate a solution in the existing framework.
Exactly. And I think especially currently, right, many people start to blame high density urban environments for the spread of the pandemic, which it's not the density that is the problem, right? It's the management and how you deal with the pandemic that is a problem.
Definitely.
So we really have to make that clear before sprawl starts again.
Oh,
Okay, we have Eugene from Sophie's Kitchen as well. Eugene, you there? You wanna just say hi to everyone? Yeah.
Hi everyone. My name is Eugene, and we Sophie's Bionutrient, or previously Sophie's Kitchen. I was in California making plant-based seafood, and now I'm in Singapore here now, trying to make real plant-based seafood from microalgae from the ocean. So.
Wow.
Wow, definitely support you in that. That's going to do so well.
Wow.
I've heard that it can be really tasty.
Hopefully. There's a lot of R&D work needs to be done, as you can foresee. You know, there's texture, there's nutrient, there's flavor.
Yeah, there's a startup doing something about microalgae tuna.
Yeah, well, actually, algae can be used for not just for fish or shrimp. We can use algae to make even beef burger. There's a company out of San Diego called Triton. They have some presence right here in Singapore as well. They use algae to make the Impossible Burger, similar, called himi. You know, the beef bone line or whatever beefy flavor that they derive from algae. So there's a lot of things you can do and work using algae, not just plant-based seafood. You know, even cooking oil, starch, and a lot of other stuff.
Wow. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks. Oh, there's also Stuart. Stuart is actually one of the first startups to land in Audacity, and he's just going gangbusters now. We've heard that he's got an order for 1,000 farms in China.
Wow. Stu, how are you doing?
Stu, how are you?
How's everyone doing? Sorry I'm a little bit late. I just got off a different call.
Oh, no problem. This is an event, so yeah. No problem.
Yeah. We also have Anupam, who is joining us. Hi, Anupam. He is a research director. He's the associate director at NUS, and he's working on a really cool conscious cities research project. So if you're staying with us towards the end, we're going to have this really cool like online virtual social space where you can talk to everyone else at the same time. But you can choose who you want to listen to. So if you can stay with us through the end, we will show you that platform, because right now I think we should start. It's going to be 2:10, so I think Yangan and Jaden can kick off today's event.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jen. We're so excited to be meeting everyone. I think this is the first open house that we get to see everyone's faces. So don't be shy. Anytime you want to come and say hello, turn on your screen. So today's format, we are very excited because today we will be sharing with you more about Permacolony, a Moonshot challenge that we have designed, and we hope to involve more of you in this ideation for our future city. So without further ado, let me share with you a video that we have made for this session. Okay, sorry, give me a second. Share screen. Cool.
Introduction of what Audacity is and what we do. Audacity stands for an alternative universal design of a city. What does that mean? Some might ask.
Yeah, it's good.
For decades, we've been focusing too much on productivity and technology-centric design. People have been chasing after technologies for the sake of making things look futuristic. But over time, many of these technologies become forgotten as nobody uses.
Oh, shit. So sorry, hang on. Sorry for the tech error.
It's okay.
Welcome everybody
try
to
again.
another monthly virtual open house by Audacity. For those who are joining us for the very first time, let me first give you a quick introduction of what Audacity
There's no video?
is and what we do.
The sound is sharing, but
Audacity
the
stands
video
for
is
an
not.
alternative universal
Okay, so
design.
sorry. This is like a new laptop. Okay. Pardon me. I'm kind of sweating right now.
Just breathe, just breathe.
Okay.
No stress.
No stress. Okay.
Welcome everybody to another monthly virtual open house by Audacity. For those who are joining us for the very first time, let me first give you a quick introduction of what Audacity is and what we do. Audacity stands for an alternative universal design of a city. What does that mean, some might ask? For decades, we have been focusing too much on productivity and technology-centric design. People have been chasing after technologies for the sake of making things look futuristic. But over time, many of these technologies become forgotten as nobody uses them. Instead, what if the starting point was the needs of humanity and the extent of positive societal impact that we can create? Then things would look really different. Humanity-centric design will involve concepts like decentralization, democratization, community-driven, circularity, etc. It is a big and bold vision. So where do we start? Audacity addresses exactly that. It aims to gather a group of diverse and passionate individuals who are keen to redesign and build humanity-centric future cities from scratch, from the ground up. It started as a partnership between Mistletoe, a collective impact community and venture ecosystem builder, together with government agencies such as JTC Corporation and Enterprise Singapore, as well as universities such as NTU, to create an innovators playground right here in Singapore at Jurong Innovation District. This is where like-minded people can come together to share ideas, do R&D, and kickstart projects that are aligned with Audacity's hypothesis and visions for the future, which often take on a long-term perspective and have huge societal impact. In this Innovators Playground, innovators have the freedom of testing, experimenting, and prototyping. And what we really want to create is an open, safe, and supportive environment where innovators can start fast, iterate as many times as they want to, without the fear of failure. By bringing in technology and talent and allowing people within the community to cross-pollinate, we believe something magical will happen as these radical ideas become reality. Over time, we hope that this will motivate a lot more younger innovators to come on board, join us, and own the change they want to create. Moreover, solutions that are developed within this sandbox will not just have the potential to scale in Singapore, but also in other developing and emerging economies to help them to leapfrog. Since last year, we have started a number of projects that fall under different themes, such as the future of food and agriculture, the future of manufacturing and human augmentation technologies, the future of co-living, co-working, and how we use resources, as well as transformative technologies that will help humanity to flourish. If you are keen to find out more, do stay connected with us through our social media platforms and visit our website audacity.world to find out more about our projects. We would love to work with you to create a bold new vision for future cities, a world that is designed for humanity, powered by empathy, and supported by technology and innovation. Today, we are super excited to share with you our latest initiative as an Audacity community, one that sets to bring all of our project communities together to explore cross-cutting themes. And we hope for more like-minded individuals, innovators, creators, and partners to join us on this very special journey. This initiative is called Permacolony. But before we go into the details of Permacolony, let us first take a step back to understand the context, to understand why we do what we do. Most people would agree that we have progressed overall as a society since the dawn of human civilization, or at least on the surface. Technology growth, economic growth, population growth, these have been the ideals that we have been chasing so hard over the past few decades. But many of us would be cognizant of the fair share of challenges we experience as a human race too. The current COVID-19 crisis, a 1 in 100-year phenomenon, has exposed many cracks in our current systems today that, if left unrectified, will put us in a very precarious position and a step closer to the apocalypse that we see so frequently in movies. We see how our over-reliance on centralized systems are failing us in times of supply chain shocks. How we are not paying enough attention to our nourishment, both in terms of physical health through the types of calories that our food systems prioritize, as well as mental health, where we see the levels of anxiety and depression increasing each day. And not forgetting the widening inequality between the rungs of society, only exemplified by the current crisis. At the same time, we need to realize that we live in a world whereby people's wants are infinite, but the Earth's resources are finite. And as the global population increases, we continue to extract more in order to produce more, resulting in us consuming more, leading to a bruised planet that continues to degrade day by day. Climate volatility continues to destroy more and more habitats each day. Rising sea levels and volatile temperature changes are triggering history's largest wave of human migration, creating new cities worldwide and accelerating the speed at which we colonize habitats outside of Earth, including Mars. And so, if we want to imagine a radically different world in which we want to live in, one that we actually want our future generations to be a part of, we should not hold on so strongly to the ways in which we operate today. We should not hold on so strongly to the bottom lines that we have been chasing these past decades: efficiency and profits. Our old systems are flawed and might no longer be relevant for the new norm that we are experiencing today. This needs to give way to a new operating system or a new OS. Thankfully, the concepts of things that would have taken years to implement are now being fast-forwarded as governments and society at large are forced to adapt to the new normal. At Audacity, we believe that these concepts are key to a radical transformation. Things like democratization, empowerment, autonomy, circularity, climate resilience, etc. So, to create the change that we want to see, we need to first ask ourselves this question. If we had unlimited time and resources, what would we build? What would we create in order for our species to flourish? For us to live meaningfully with happiness, purpose, and satisfaction? How will human settlements look like in the future? That is what we hope to achieve through Permacolony, a combination of the words permaculture and colony, because what we want to create are sustainable, livable, and lovable communities that are here to stay.
So guys, do you guys enjoy the video? So that's actually a great context set by Yang En. He has shared with us why our current system has certain cracks and why we need to look at the current challenges that we have and take on a more participatory approach to building our future. So for the next 15 minutes, I would like to do a fun visioning exercise with you. Before that, actually, I want Yang En to say hi. Yeah, to everyone. Haven't heard from him yet.
Hi everyone. You've heard from the other me that
Yes.
recorded me. yeah. But
Okay.
we're gonna do a very fun visioning exercise. So if everyone has a pen and paper or any form of electronic device that you can record your thoughts on, you can take it out and Jaden, please take it.
Yeah, we will spend the first 5 minutes doing this visioning exercise. And then towards the last 10 minutes, I would love to hear more of your creative ideas. Maybe you can do it via Zoom, or if you are a bit more shy, you would like to type it out, feel free to type it out as well. Right, so give me a second. Does everyone have your writing materials yet?
Oh, give me 1 minute, half a minute to get some paper and
No problem. Okay, wait. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
It says visioning exercise. If everyone has done it, gotten your pen and paper, say yay. So, because I can't see you right now.
Yay.
Cool.
Yay.
Okay.
Yay.
So for the first step of the exercise, I would like you to write down one truth or assumption in our current world or society that you find undesirable. It could be an object, it could be a system, it could be a structure, or it can be a process. So for me, I've personally identified, because I've always wanted to drive a car, but I find it always very conflicting that cars right now are contributing to carbon emissions that leads to global warming and climate destruction. So write down something that you feel a lot for, something that you don't quite like in the current world. So maybe we'll spend the next 1 minute doing this. When we were doing this exercise between me and Yang En, we also stated another truth in the world that we do not quite like at the moment, because both of us like to eat a lot. But right now in the current day setting, many times convenience food will lead to negative health impact. And that's something that we don't quite like at the moment. So looking forward to hear about, the one truth that you find undesirable in our current system. Okay, 1 minute has passed. Do we need more time for that? Can I have audio feedback?
Maybe half a minute more.
Sounds good.
Or,
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna stop at 2 minutes, 30 seconds bonus. Okay, it's now 2 minutes. Maybe we can move on to the next stage of this exercise. Now I would like you to state the opposite of this truth or assumption. So for my example, it will be, I imagine cars in the future that can reduce carbon emissions that leads to climate mitigation. So try to flip the statement that you just wrote about the undesirable statement of the world right now. So let's spend maybe 30 seconds to write it down. All right, 30 seconds have passed, and I hope that you guys have written this down as well. Next, I would like to know, why is your flip state so important for the future settlement? So for me, it is important that cars in the future can mitigate climate change, because people can continue to enjoy the freedom of mobility while ensuring the health of our environment, so that we do not suffer from the adverse effect of climate change. So think about the flip state of your undesirable truth, and think about why it's so important to be part of our future settlement. Maybe we'll spend a minute on this. feel free to ask any questions. Yang will be in the chat to help you out. How's everyone doing at the moment? Do we need more time for this?
If you're done, you
Oh,
can give us a
good.
thumbs up as well. So.
Okay, maybe we move on to the last one, and then if you have not finished this, we can always come back to it. Okay, so the final step of this visioning exercise, with unlimited resources and time, what will you create to realize this flip state? So for me, I would create a car that is powered fully by renewable energy, that has the function to sequester all the carbon dioxide in our atmosphere as I drive my car, either to make food, microalgae, or convert it to fuel. So for this last part of the exercise, it's very important that you think without the limitation and constraints of resources, such as technological resources, time, and money. Yeah, so we can really go out of the box and think of creative solutions and not be bounded by the constraints that we see right now. Yeah, maybe let's spend another 2 minutes on this. You can think of ideas which are from the most normal or the most creative, but I will recommend that you go crazy with the solutions that you create so that it will be a solution that we can work towards, can start now, and that will be the solution of the future.
Right, maybe we'll just take 1 more minute.
Okay. Did ideas flow out quickly for you guys, or was it quite a difficult process to follow through? Would anyone like to share? Sure, you have a smile on your face. Would you like to share your idea? And then you can nominate someone to share their idea.
Okay.
So tell us what's a truth in the world that you do not find desirable at the moment, and then you can go on in your process.
So actually, I was thinking about our food consumption patterns and how we chase like luxury items, like, you know, like caviar, truffle, sea urchin. These are things that, I mean, especially in Singapore, we have to import. And like, why is it that this is considered to be like the pinnacle of like what is that, gastronomic like goodness, right? Yeah. And I think that we chase it very blindly. Yeah. So if I were to flip the assumption, I would say that tasty food can be found in our own backyards or nearby. Yeah. That we can have a role in feeding back to our community. Yeah. So why is this flip statement so important for future settlements? I think that similarly, like the example that you shared about cars and the carbon emission, like air freight also has a really large carbon footprint, and we especially see in like the COVID situation that supply chains have been disrupted. Yeah. Hello. Yeah. That yeah, I think we should learn to cultivate what we have. Yeah, more than importing it in and creating that large carbon footprint. Yeah. So what would I do to create this flip state? I think that like what I'm looking at is really like a macro level kind of thing, and I couldn't be too imaginative with my solution, but I think I would find a way to grow and build cities that are fueled by education and civic mindedness. Yeah, because I think that in order to foster this kind of mindset, you really have to have people understand that there are many things like around them that can be beautiful and delicious. Yeah, and that is also our responsibility to foster that. Yeah.
Nice, thanks for sharing. Would you nominate a friend in this room that you have not met?
Oh, that I haven't met? Okay, I've met quite a number of you guys. I would like to actually nominate Brian because I really love how he thinks, and he's one of the, I think, the biggest brains in like the realm of urban farming. So yeah, I'd love to hear what he has to say.
Thank you. I don't know about biggest brain, but I think there's a lot of passion. I have a lot of passion for, I think, food, and yeah. So unsurprisingly, sorry, I just stuffed my mouth with food before you popped on me. I think the truth and assumption I find undesirable is that meat, as we eat it today, is often produced in factory farms, which is both bad for animal welfare and for the environment. So the opposite of that would be meat production that leaves the animals happy, except for one bad day, something I learned from Justin Rhodes on YouTube, right? And that improves the environment. So why is this so important for our future settlement? I said so that we can enjoy meat without having to worry about the negative impact that our food consumption has on the environment. And what would you create? Actually, you don't need to create lah. The systems have already. I think if, actually no, I know what I want to create, which is a change in mindset in terms of like how we perceive food production, and to remove, I think, more than anything, the mental blocks we have in place. There are systems that actually run animals in a way that can improve the environment and have a low, if not negative, carbon footprint. But I think there's a lot of clinging to old ways of doing things that prevent a more widespread adoption of these systems. Yeah. Well, I wish for one day when I can have like woodland raised pig, pork, or pasture raised like chickens, or something new I've just learned is tree raised cows, right? Tree raised beef, not just grass raised, right? But tree raised. So I mean, all these systems exist, and there are ways to do it that actively improve the environment and improve soil quality, water quality, soil carbon sequestration, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So that would be me. So I haven't met a lot of you. So let me find somebody. How about Eugene Wang? Eugene, are you there?
Right here, finally, I'm mute, I'm sorry, yeah. Hi everyone. So for me, actually, I was the most, should I say, troublesome thing about today's food production is that it all requires a lot of space. And then, so because, you know, looking at aquaculture, agriculture, or animal farming, you all need a huge space in order for that operation to be performed. And then on top of it, you need a lot of people to process it. So that's why we here in Singapore develop the so-called vertical farming. But using the vertical farming is still very energy intensive. And so that's why, you know, for me, especially my personal belief is that the longer term future we really should try to use a lot less of these conventional, what I call conventional food production. We should really try to use more bioreactors and using microorganisms, using the cells, what we call the cell-based meat or culture meat. So imagine the future of a food production system that is totally done in a contained building, a factory, so that it will have minimum footprint, minimum resources needed. And because the microorganisms, especially, they grow really fast, you don't need a lot of energy either. And then a lot of things can be automated, so you don't need a lot of people. So imagine that, you know, pretty much like a beer factory, but not brewing beer, but we're brewing maybe burgers, for example, brewing tofu, for example. Even using the microorganism, you can do starch, cooking oil. So you can make noodles. You can deep fry your foods. So imagine a system like that. If we can spend all our resources, money, talents to develop a system like that, that's exactly what we're doing right now. Then the next pandemic, 17 years after, or even shorter, when next pandemic hits, Singapore will no longer have this panic of finding another food source to feed all the people. So that's my belief for a better future.
Looking forward, Eugene. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think you once shared with us that it could even go down to a portable unit whereby maybe each household has a mini reactor to produce food. That could be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a space nerd. So this system was actually originally developed for my imaginary Martian project. So think about it, you know, you can have this type of a portable system, you know, just like a laptop, you know, you can bring it onto the spacecraft. And then when you get to Mars, just set it up there like a big gigantic generator, but it generates all the foods you need with the water you get on Mars, you know. And then, you know, you have everything ready for yourself. Very, very sustainable and resource like that will be a wonderful thing for the future mankind. Yeah.
Looking forward to learn more from you, Eugene. Maybe we can invite you to speak at our future sessions. Okay,
sure.
Thank you so much, guys, for your participation. I think given the time we have today, maybe we can continue this process down the line in like future deep dives into each subject matters. So we welcome you to share your thoughts or questions via the chat box anytime, and then I will share with you the second video that we will be showing you.
Okay, Jaden, so what is permacolony and how does it fit in with what we've discussed so far?
Maybe we can share how we derived the word permacolony. Right?
No
we were
visuals.
really
Okay, no worries. Okay. Hang on. Okay, start share. Okay, let's try again. Screen 4. Okay.
Okay, Jaden, so what is permacolony and how does it fit in with what we've discussed so far?
Anything?
Maybe we can share how we derived the word permacolony, right? We were really inspired by permaculture practices. It's a set of principles that guides us to build sustainable human settlements and how, you know, as humans, we can interact and integrate with our land harmoniously. So bearing in mind permaculture practices and principles, we look at how we can fulfill our material needs, such as food, energy, and shelter, and also our non-material needs in sustainable ways. And coincidentally, PERMA is also represented by a scientific model in the field of positive psychology that looks at what are the different elements to help us maximize our own happiness and also thrive as a community.
Nice. I think that's a really interesting and helpful definition and framework to look at permaculture. And it's a really nice segue into what we're trying to build, right? Permacolonies. So what we're really setting out to do is to design and create scalable permaculture communities called permacolonies, which will be 100% self-sustainable in its food and energy needs, while capable of achieving the highest levels of human flourishing. And to achieve this, Audacity will launch a challenge called Moonshot Permacolony, where we have worked with ESG to launch this as part of a segment in Slingshot 2020, one of the region's largest startup pitching competitions.
Really young, as we put out global experimental and early stage startups to join us in this journey, we will also be simultaneously growing the support network of mentors, investors, demand drivers to help scale these radical ideas. What we hope to achieve for Permacolony will be manifestations of many Permacolony communities all over the world, starting with our own one at Jurong Innovation District.
Yes, and as a near-term target for our very first physical permacolony, we will aim towards being 100 by 25. And what this entails is where an initial group of 100 innovators, a mixture of offline and online, will come together and challenge themselves to be 100% self-sufficient while coexisting with their immediate natural environment in a limited plot of land. And so we have three key ideals for permacolonies. The first ideal is being self-sustaining, where we try as much as possible to form closed-loop systems where we maximize the use of resources and we minimize waste. The second is being self-sufficient, where we're able to provide for our food and energy needs as a community. And last but not least, self-propagating, where the citizens and the community members within permacolonies feel empowered to create what they require, and a place where creative ideas can actually build on one another seamlessly.
All bold plans start with a vision. And what we want to do is to share with you some insights by our community with the system that we need for sustenance, the food and agriculture system.
So when crisis strikes, something like COVID-19 has happened, our survival instincts will kick in immediately, and food and water instantly become things that are top of our minds, as we have seen from the supermarket hoardings at the start. So I feel that it's natural for us to view food and agriculture as the basic building blocks of human sustenance that are central to our physiological needs.
From a survival standpoint, is it necessary that as a community we need to be food secure?
Yes, definitely. I think having food secure communities should be an ideal that we work towards too. And I think for that to happen, first and foremost, we need our food and agriculture system to be resilient, right? Which means to be adaptable and flexible to external shocks and factors that we might not be able to foresee. And one way where we could do that is to implement polyculture farming practices.
This is also closely linked to building an autonomous food system where we can be self-sufficient through circularity, right? This ensures that we put the resources that we have to good use and maximizing their life cycle. At the same time, a circular food system could reduce the food miles between each part of the food value chain, and also it allows us to get fresh food and save the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't agree more than that. And I also think it's important for our system to be harmonious, where whatever that we grow, the fresh fruits and vegetables can be accessible by everyone. I think the current situation is such that the less well-off are often reliant on cheap calories. They are not able to provide for the required nutritional intake for them to lead healthy lives. And very often these are the same foods that lead to chronic diseases like diabetes, high blood pressure, etc.
Talking about diets, the current demand of meat seems to be ever growing together with the world population. But we see how terrible the impact of meat consumption is on our climate. So looking at these trends, perhaps what we can look forward to is an increased consumption of alternative protein in the future. It will be interesting to explore how diets can be customized to each of our lifestyles.
Yeah. On top of food, shelter is the next thing that comes to mind when we talk about fulfilling our basic physiological needs. And I can only imagine with the changing urban landscape and how the lines between work and play are becoming increasingly blurred, living spaces are going to look really different in the future too.
If residents were to grow their own food in a limited amount of space for self-sufficiency, I would see that entails a very different relationship that they have with their living spaces. So, Shui, could you share with us how we can take that into account when designing for our spaces in Permacolony?
I think living spaces currently do not integrate nature more than just a touch and go, like slapping of greenery in the form of parks and trees. I think we could consider how can we integrate nature to firstly feed the residents using edible plants and also fruiting trees, and secondly to engage the residents to care for the environment. Currently, nature exists as a system in harmony, and I think we can learn so much from the way nature is designed to coexist symbiotically with it.
I definitely agree that biophilic design will play a key role for our future living spaces. So, Shui, how do we start?
I think we really have to start by unlearning our assumptions of what a living space should be and critically analyzing and re-examining how we live. For example, the modern home kitchen has been stripped of so many features that have been used to feed a community. And I wonder if there would be a new way of imagining cooking processes and spaces that move us away from consuming fast food while using methods to produce nutritious and delicious food. For example, using a small fermentation corner in the kitchen could be one way of creating delicious flavor profiles while keeping foods nutritionally dense. And we can see that by considering these processes from start to finish, we can minimize our environmental footprint by reducing the trash from how we get our food to composting our waste. Because traditionally, when our ancestors lived on farms, people get their food and compost them on large swaths of land. But since times have changed and living spaces have become more compact, could we design these systems to integrate with our kitchen?
If you want innovative use of space, we need to think about all these processes and systems right from the beginning of the design process. Are there any other ideas that we should take into account when designing for our future living and communal spaces?
Yeah. In order for people to be inventive with their resources, they must firstly be given opportunities to customize their living spaces so that residents can have more autonomy over their spaces as a living, breathing experiment rather than a dead space. Many of us buy houses pre-made and we buy all the things that we use off the shelves. But by allowing a high degree of customization, we can have an efficient control over the resources we consume, as well as the technology that we choose to integrate into our living spaces. If we use a top-down legacy framework, the design process from ideation to creating a final consumer product is diluted with so many other intentions that leaves the end user a very limited range of choices. By integrating the user into this design process, we can then have a more efficient and more inventive use of technology and spaces.
That's a good point about autonomy because it really provides a high degree of customizability that is specifically suited to our needs. So I just want to zoom out a little, right? How should we think about individual spaces in relation to the community?
Let's flip the existing paradigm on its head. Instead of seeing individual units adding up to forming a community, we can see the community as a large system in which individuals exist symbiotically. We see that communities are struggling to form bonds in modern neighborhoods because residents are isolated in their homes. So instead of seeing homes as private and gathering spaces as public, we can look to other forms of inspiration like observing patterns in nature to weave community spaces into semi-private spaces. Because humans have an innate attraction to nature and open spaces, the communal spaces like plazas and parks are standalone. And I think it's so important to also involve play in these spaces as humans instinctively form bonds with others over play.
Thank you, Sheree. As a natural extension to the infrastructure that we are building, I think it's pertinent that we look at the system within.
Yeah, I think things like energy and resources are akin to our circulatory and respiratory systems in our body. We need them to be able to support and also sustain the activities within Permacolony.
However, I think that the premise of our current day society is that we have been so extractive in terms of the resources. I think that has a lot of bad implications on the climate.
Maybe let's ask Ritika, who has looked at quite a number of projects to integrate systems into architecture to make them more sustainable. So, Ritika, what do you think should be the starting point if we were to design our resource systems within Permacolony from scratch?
Firstly, I think there has to be a change in mindset through an integrated and comprehensive use of resources like energy, water, and waste. For example, growing food in urban life. Just growing plants requires energy and enormous amounts of water. The agri-waste produced could be a source for waste to fuel to generate energy, closing waste and energy loops. Secondly, adopting a scientific approach through identifying renewable alternatives to reduce grid reliance in terms of resource patterns and consumption. And lastly, understanding the requirement of the community. and the local context of tangibles like soil type, weather patterns, water, and nutrient requirements of the crop grown, as well as the skill required to grow. All this could lead to a regenerative shift of the community.
Besides the change in mindset, how else can we achieve a more sustainable system?
I don't think technology is the only solution. The solutions that we receive should bridge the divide to accessibility to the larger community by incorporating hybrid high and low technology tools and innovations. Another aspect is the economics of the solution for wider adoptability. The crop or the method that yields the highest nutritional value while optimizing resource footprint, thus shortening supply chains and reducing the reliance on the grid for greater autonomy.
Earlier, Shuri mentioned about a point about customizing spaces to suit our needs. And I think bearing in mind the present day buy and throw culture that we see so often, it leads to a strain on our climate through the overconsumption of raw materials. How do you think we should approach the build of Permacolony? Maybe we can ask Super Shane, one of our committee members who's heading the microfactory project, to share more about his thoughts.
Yeah, thanks, Young. So when we talk about the best ways to kind of build and create our space, I always go back to this concept of sustainability and looking at what is the real utility of what we're creating and what's the life cycle and how does that fit into the overall ecosystem that we have. I think that if we can allow people to build what they want, when they want, as they want it, it really is an empowering process, both to the individual and to the community, to kind of create what they need. There's a process of discovery and understanding, realization of how we are interacting and the things that we need to use in our environment. So for the Permacolony Challenge, we're trying to look at something that we're calling the 3 Fs. Which is furniture, fittings, and finishing. There's some things that we definitely have the ability to create on our own. So, if I need a bed or a chair or a bench, we can look at the natural materials and resources that we have around the permacolony. So we can turn like trash into treasure or waste into wonder. Like, what can we do with these things that we're typically discarding? If I can turn that into something that has a value or utility, and I'm able to be creative and make something that suits exactly what I need and exactly as I need it, it's a very empowering opportunity. It can be very useful in someone's journey to have a sense of autonomy and agency. And so now they're controlling and affecting the environment that they live to a much greater degree than being reliant on, oh, I'm going to go to the store and buy this thing.
Shane, so earlier you talked about regenerative production methods and, really turning waste into treasure. I'm just wondering because, very often when we talk about waste, it's always about the things that we can see, things that are tangible, for example, food waste, material waste. But what about things that we can't see with the naked eye, right? So emissions that have been produced over the past decades and centuries, like the carbon in the air. For things like that, can we put those elements into good use?
If we're looking in general, there are so many things that just exist in our environment that we can tap into. That could even be looking at the carbon that exists in our air. There's ways of capturing some of this or taking, poor air quality and turning it into inks. Now you have something that's serving some purpose and also yielding some useful, creating some product at the end of it. We can also look at the ways that you can do carbon capture to do protein production. So now maybe that's turning it into food, or maybe I'm turning it into building material. It's taking these things, even if they might be things that we can't see with our naked eye, that exist in the environment. So how can we tap into our environment and leverage the things that are considered waste or the things that are just there, and turn those into something that is beneficial to the community?
In today's world, we are often reminded that we live with constraints such as time and physical abilities. In Permacolony, could we achieve new heights with the right utilization of technology? Let me invite Shenhui, who has been working on demining and farming robots, to share her views on this. Shenhui.
Thanks, Jaden. So, in the future of automation, the way we define work would be very different. So we can definitely leverage on technology to do most of the works that we don't want to do now because they are menial, backbreaking, or dangerous. So this would change the requirements for individuals to partake in different activities and work, and it will level the playing field for all.
I think many people at the same time, they're also worried about how, with the introduction of automation and robotics, they fear that humans might eventually be displaced. Right? So what do you think about that? And how do you think humans and robotics and AI could collaborate together meaningfully?
Okay, so one of the robotic systems that I really like is the Da Vinci surgical system. So it's a system that allows surgeons to perform delicate and complex operations with smaller incisions so that the surgery becomes less invasive. So this changes the interface in which the surgeon interacts with the patients, but both sides would stand to benefit from the introduction of it. So I think this is the value add of robotics. And if we bear in mind the intentions of being humanity-centric when developing technology, we'll be able to continue to keep humans engaged as we solve some of the grand challenges of today. So this will allow us to not only to perform tasks that were previously unimaginable, but also enable us to enjoy greater time freedom and autonomy.
So far, we have been talking about the basic blocks in order for us to live, such as energy, water, food, and shelter. But instead of just looking at us surviving, do we need to do more than surviving? Is there a new level to reach as a colony? I'd like to get Jen, who is working on how we can be flourishing as a community, to share with us more about the idea of flourishing.
Certainly. Thank you, Jaden. Of course, there is much more to surviving. So for Project Flourishing here at Audacity, our vision is for permacolonists to find inner wisdom, experience happiness, purpose, and life satisfaction. We do this by being aware of, ourselves. It's important to think of implementations at a systemic level. But even if it's at a systemic level, it has to begin somewhere. And for Project Flourishing, we would like to focus on the awareness of self. And this awareness of self, it's being attuned to your biological hardware and software, which is the mind. And we understand that the mind is a place where you can process meaning from your values. So just by being aware of our values, it translates to the inner wisdom that we make for ourselves. And by being able to access this wisdom, we're able to help ourselves achieve better well-being in the domains that are important to us. And this is what we think will be the basis in forming a sustainable and resilient community.
Okay, so coincidentally, PERMA doesn't just stand for permaculture, but it also stands for a framework. So Janice, could you share more with us about that?
So we're really glad that Martin Seligman's PERMA model has been considered as part of the why we want to challenge innovators to consider humanity-centric values in their ideas and vision. And these are the 5 building blocks that have been identified as domains where one can enable flourishing. And there are even techniques to increase each domain. Sometimes there's a 6th domain, H, which stands for physical and mental health, that can also be considered in the measurement of well-being. So the theory behind this hypothesis is that different people derive well-being from different sources at each of these 5 building blocks to varying degrees. His research doesn't aim to tell people what to do. Similar for us at Project Flourishing, we're not here to tell, you should be feeling like this, you should be doing this. But we hope that these models that we are proposing and these domains that we have identified helps you to frame your thoughts and identify a domain that complements with your context.
Okay, so when you talk about concepts like flourishing, happiness, and finding satisfaction, these tend to be really qualitative concepts and terms that we hear. How are we able to track and monitor these states?
So this is where transformative technology comes into the picture. Transformative technology looks at how exponential technologies can be harnessed to provide feedback on your hardware and software. These technologies enable us to collect biodata into our mobile phones. Examples of wearable tech like an Oura Ring or Aspire. So an Oura Ring helps you to monitor your sleep. It gives you feedback on how well you slept and then advises you on how you should take on your day. And when this sleep tech can be paired with, say, maybe another wearable tech like the Spire, which is a pebble that measures your breath rate, it could technically give you a good holistic overview of how you are performing as an individual human being. And because you understand how you're performing as a human being, you're able maybe to deconstruct or decode or pinpoint where you could improve in your interactions with other people.
So what we have scoped out are the vision statements of broad themes that we believe are necessary to consider in order to create permacolonies which are self-sufficient and are capable of thriving. In fact, all these teams correspond to the individual projects that are running at Audacity.
So to help us understand how one relates to the other, you can see as such. While each Audacity project focuses and goes deep into the verticals, Permacolony is a horizontal programming element that explores the cross-pollination between these verticals.
So what we have done is to keep each key visions broad but specific enough so that collaborators can understand what we're trying to achieve at Permacolonies. But right now, we would like to extend the invitation to potential collaborators to come and shape each team further.
Yeah, I think that is one of the main reasons that make Permacolony different from typical challenges as well. Instead of being too prescriptive in the solutions we are looking for, which might limit our possibilities, our goal is to find like-minded innovators who share similar broad visions as us, and then partnering them to turn these visions into reality. Since we want it to be a ground-up effort, that means that while we stick to the common principles that we generally agree on, we must be willing to accept a different end outcome or end state that each of us originally envisioned, because the final product will be collectively shaped over time.
We recognize that in order for us to achieve this ambitious target, we need strong support for all innovators and collaborators who are coming on board. And that's where we are looking for more partners to join our growing pool of local and overseas collaborators.
So who are we looking at specifically? Partners will include mentors and advisors who can provide mentorship and guidance, enablers such as incubators, accelerators, and venture builders that help with concept building and refinement and provide advice on product, investors such as VCs, angels, family offices that provide non-financial support on top of funding, lead demand drivers like governments and corporates who can provide traction and momentum and be the first customers, regulatory partners who will work with us to explore sandboxes for test bidding, specialists such as researchers that can supplement new research and provide deep tech talent, and last but not least, creatives like artists, designers, and planners that can support with product design and marcoms. To summarize how the different elements come together, I would like to use the analogy of a bow and arrow. So what we have now is a short-term target to be 100% self-sustainable by 2025. So how do we reach this target? We have the archers, which refer to permacolonists, who are innovators and startups who are part of Permacolony, making use of the arrow. And the arrow refers to Audacity projects that function as innovation platforms so that these permacolonists can build their ideas in order to achieve the target. At the same time, the bow is the thing that supports the arrow. So the bow really refers to supporting partners, for example, mentors, advisors, funding partners, who will work together with the startups to make this happen. And finally, for the arrow to go further and faster, there has to be tension in the bowstring. So this tension refers to the pressures arising from today's crisis, like COVID-19 and climate change, that accelerate us towards this target.
That's an interesting analogy, Yang En. There are innovators and collaborators who might be keen on joining the challenge, but I think they might be wondering what's in it for them.
I think first of all, it is really the opportunity to build something radical and here to stay in the long term. Permacolony adopts a long-term perspective because our focus is on building solutions in blue oceans that will define the cities of tomorrow and have an outsized positive impact on society, versus red oceans, where there's really a lot of competition and support in this space.
Startups will be invited to our community where we have dedicated resources and platforms for them to build and test their ideas. For example, they can join the existing projects that are running at Audacity at Jurong Innovation District. They could also receive funding for research. At the same time, they will be able to build up strong use cases by test bidding and integrating their solutions in the larger system, not just testing in silos.
Plus, innovators will get to meet other super interesting and quirky like-minded individuals and partners that will certainly increase the chances of serendipitous collaborations. And the supportive community extends to both Audacity and Mistletoe's network of partners to help innovators develop ideas, build traction, and seek mentorship and advice.
What I love about our Moonshot Permacolony Challenge is that the so-called criteria is really straightforward and it's meant to be as barrier-free as possible. Anyone with a similar vision is welcome to develop Moonshot solutions with us, regardless of sector or background, be it you're a student or urban gardener who would like to impact a change in our future. We're also open to working with more partners in the public and private sector on a non-exclusive basis. If you're interested in partnering up with us to support Moonshot solutions, we'd love to get in touch.
What next? We are planning a series of activities and engagement platforms such as Innovation Jams, where we'll gather innovators with similar interests together to build their ideas and concepts, and also boot camps to help existing teams refine their proposals. Everyone is welcome, whether you're an individual innovator or a startup. Our activities will cater to teams across different stages, so don't worry if you only have an idea currently or already have a product or prototype. If you're interested, do stay connected with us through our social media platforms or reach out to us via email, and we will keep you posted in due course.
The challenges are big, but so are the opportunities. In fact, history has shown us that with shared goals, collective effort, and time, we can create a systemic change. If any part of our vision sounds like it's the future that you would like to see, let's join forces. We welcome any like-minded individuals and also startups to join us to be part of Permacolony. Let's turn our radical ideas and visions into a reality, shall we?
All right, so I hope everyone is as excited as we are about Permacolony. It's really our latest initiative, and we hope that we can get more people who believe in the same visions as us or who have a similar vision to be part of our community. So as you have seen for the overall Permacolony vision, the goal is not just to have communities that are concerned about survival. Survival is important, but it's not all, right? So how do we move from a state of survival to flourishing? So for the next segment, we have the team from Project Flourishing to share more about their projects, as well as certain key takeaways from their Humanity Design Summit that was organized recently. So I'll hand it over to Jennings and team.
Hello. Hi, thanks Yangan and Jaden for that beautiful intro to Permacolony. Truly excited to see how we can start creating our own permaculture societies. I guess now it's the Audacity Flourishing Project segment. I would like to introduce my team here. This is Shane and Edric. Hey, are you guys online?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, so 2 or 3 weeks ago, we hosted a Audacity Summit, which was pretty crazy, right? How do you guys feel, man?
That was a pretty wild time. We originally planned for doing an in-person conference, and when COVID came, we had to figure out what was a way to keep things on course. So we had postponed the date, but then we just had to kind of carry on. So we had this really amazing conference, just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. That we were limited by what can we do online and still kind of achieve the same kind of creative outcome that we want, because it's not just another conference where we let people sit in and listen to presentation, but we want people to kind of jam and collaborate and have crazy ideas that come out of this conference and create these new connections. So it also created a lot of new opportunities for us to think about how can we connect people across regions and accommodate for more people. So crazy time, but also lots of incredible opportunities.
Yeah, and I think we kind of made some new Audacity friends, some of them who have joined us today. But I guess a lot of the rest here probably might not know what we're talking about. So I think we can just start by showing that video that Edric did. Yeah, that will give you a clear intention of why we did the summit. So I'll just share a little video. If it's jaggy or whatsoever, just let me know in the chat, and then I'll just share the link to the YouTube video and you can watch it later. All right. Here. Okay. You all see it?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Okay, I'm gonna play it. Hope it works. You guys hear it?
Nope.
You don't?
Did you select
Sorry?
for sharing video and audio?
Okay, hold on. Let me try and do that. Sure. Yeah, okay, got it. Okay.
Things are cheaper, faster, and better. The average person is healthier, wealthier, and more educated than ever. Surely it's led to a happier society, right? Despite the incredible investment we made, studies after studies found that not only do people's happiness not increase, but people around the world are feeling worse. What is going on here? Turns out the same things that have brought immense benefits to us have also taxed our thinking, wellness, and relationships. The extractive value systems that the late-stage capitalism created have stewarded our society to a place with declining resilience, sense of belonging, meaning, and purpose. We are exponentially increasing our ability to...
Oh, the video stopped.
Oh, I think Jan got stopped. Oh,
Jan, are you there?
Jan's got caught in the matrix. She's glitched out.
Loneliness pervades the urban population globally. The existing systems optimize for GDP, attention, consumption, efficiency, and productivity. But what about humanity? The flourishing of people who live in it. The next decade will be marked by an explosion in city density and even more rapid technological change. Since neither is going away, we believe it's time to ask new questions for cities at the intersection of our technology and humanity. What more could the city be? What if the goal wasn't to make cities smart, but to make them wise? Cities that solve for human potential, capacity, and inclusiveness at a time of great technological change. What if we can leverage the power of technology not to optimize for attention and efficiency, but human psychological well-being, cognitive function, and collective harmony? To find these answers, we came up with Audacity Cities. Across June to October, we are bringing together the top experts from diverse fields to identify 3 to 5 city-scale experiments that solve for human flourishing. The solutions we need for complex big-scale problems can't come from siloed thinking. It will take a big collective effort and innovations to germinate the seeds from the mash between minds and meaning, places and potential, arts and science powered by transformative technology. With the help of our advisory team with years of experience in these fields, we are taking the first steps to build a continuous global community of conscious, cross-disciplinary innovators. Through both offline and offline avenues, we aim to facilitate deep connections and collaborations with the goal to unlearn old beliefs, unlock new frameworks, and unleash alternative designs for our future cities. The cities of the future could be dense, cold citadels of more tech and deeper human disconnection. But we refuse to accept this narrative. With the right collective force, we believe an alternate future is possible, a natural humanistic city where humans can find purpose, passion, and their best self, experience mental and emotional well-being, and truly flourish.
Great. So I apologize. I think the video was a bit jaggy for some. So I pasted the video link in our chat so you can watch it later if you like at your own time. So I think Shane mentioned earlier that our summit was initially supposed to be in Singapore. It was a 3-day design sprint where we're going to get delegates from all over the world come and identify what are the 3 to 5 experiments that we could actually deploy in cities. And so, yeah, because of the pandemic, we had to pivot. But we're glad that we had the summit in June because there was no reason to delay the conversation anyway. It's whatever is happening in cities right now is still happening despite COVID or not. It's just that because COVID happened, so then, these cracks were further kind of enlarged, right? I guess I can share this because we recognize that city can be a service and a platform and a playground, and urban city planning is a mammoth effort, right? Let alone redesigning a city that has already been built. So to help us focus our efforts in the conversations that happened last month, we thought that we could identify 3 domains, and we called it our Audacity's map. And the 3 domains are minds and meaning, arts and science, places and potential. And with this framework, we were able to identify the opportunity zones and the kind of disciplines that we need to be involved and where we can deploy those efforts to focus our attention with. So I guess the best person to explain this Audacity's framework is one of our advisors, Nikki McManus. And I'm gonna just put him on right now, his digital twin. Mickey, are you there? Okay, yeah, he's here.
My digital twin is joined.
Yeah, cool.
Hi. Yeah. No, you know, I don't think I'm your digital twin or your virtual twin or whatever. I feel like I'm probably more like your imaginary stunt double. You kind of call me in to try wild things. And I guess it's crowded in here inside this space. I feel like there's an awful lot of me inside here, all thinking different things. And then we all kind of come together and try to do something in the world. Thanks for inviting me. And what I thought I would do is sort of zoom in on what we're going to be talking about over the 3 days. And today is the first day, so we're going to actually talk about minds and meaning. And in a sense, minds and meaning are sort of about, you know, what makes us human. And in a sense, it's sort of the, you know, the inner landscape of the mind. You know, it's not the outside world, but it's our sort of inside world. You know, and how do we get out of self-doubt, and how do we get to a point of curiosity, and I don't know, really my goal would be to, how do we help feel a sense of agency? How do we grow ourselves? And our speakers are going to talk a little bit about the intersection of minds and meaning, and science and art, and a little bit about, you know, minds don't happen in a vacuum. We actually live in a place and we find potential through time, over time, or we feel lonely and we feel demoralized over time sometimes. You know, we get kicked down and we can't get back up. So they're going to be each talking today about sort of the intersection of these things. And tomorrow, we're going to have sessions that really look at sciences and arts. You know, I think a lot about how science is sort of like the experimental method. You know, it's that little beaker that we have a hypothesis, and then we turn it on and we try to figure out some way to compress all of our observations and discoveries about phenomena in the universe, and turn it into something that gives us predictability. You know, E equals mc squared is a pretty amazing compression that Einstein came up with, 3 letters, a number, but it helped us develop atomic energy. It helped us understand space and time. And it was an incredible way for us to use science to try to predict a little bit about what the future brings. I kind of feel like the other end of that spectrum, though, if science is about the kind of compressible, art, you know, I think of as almost, it's really, how does an artist individually explore the future? How do they look at the sort of uncompressible of human existence, you know? It's not supposed to be about shorthand or cliff notes. In some ways, it's about expanding. It's understanding the inner mind. You know, how do I think about you, and then how do you think about somebody else? You know, that might be the best thing to do would be to sort of read a book about it, a novel or something like that. And that's a scientific investigation. So is painting, so is music, so is all these things that artists are really exploring their own agenda through reacting to the world around them in the moment. And they're sort of helping us push the boundaries of what we know. They're the ones that are the explorers that kind of go to the very edge and they keep going. And so we really want to see how we can embrace both the science side of things, the compressible, but also the uncompressible, the ineffable in some ways. And I think of places and potential as kind of, you know, whether it's our house, whether it's our family, whether it's our street corner, or whether it's our city, you know, or our community. Each one of those is sort of a nested containment, a recursion up and down, but it's the place that things happen. Our minds aren't in a jar. Our minds are like engaging with others. We're shaped by other people. And it also seems to happen not only space, but I think over time. You know, we sometimes feel this sort of infinite happiness, and then we feel really demoralized sadness, like we can't get any lower. And how do we go through over time, find a safe psychological space to kind of stretch ourselves, to almost over time kind of go through the hero's journey, go down into the dumps, you know, the hero's journey, or it's called man or woman in a hole. We get into a hole, but ultimately friends and family and other people help us get back out again. And we're a little better for it at the end, you know. So how do we find that place for experimentation for ourselves of what we could be? And how do we have lifelong learning to explore that? So ultimately our goal would be minds and meaning the first day, science and art the second day, and sort of brainstorm a little bit during the open sessions, and then really pull it together into pilots and prototypes and experiments that we can try out in place, in potential, to shift really from the old way of thinking about cities to cities that thrive and help us prepare for the unknown, you know, the volatility and uncertainty of the future. I think that's kind of the point of a city, is to help us prepare for the unknown and be able to strive and thrive. Can we keep it moving? Yeah, I know I go on for too long. Well, let's get rolling.
So that was a Mickey kind of giving an introduction when we had the first day of the summit, and he was kind of laying out what the expectation was over the few days. And so this was our organizational design framework that we came up with to try and give the delegates some basis for how we're looking at this. And we'll share a link with anybody that's interested. So you're welcome to read through this and see what you think of our framework. I think we'll share a link to that now in the chat here. But it's, you know, the whole intention here is really to, how do we transform the way that we are currently interacting and engaging with one another in communities, and how can we design experiments that will enable us to be better as humans, like well-being, like our beings are well. So what does that look like in a full, all of the dimensions that are required there? So I think Jan just shared the flourishing framework. And what's the next page? And so when we're thinking about things at these grand scales, you know, what does it look like to enable people to exist better in a society and community in a city? There's so much that affects us. And when we're thinking things at city scale, it's really quite mind-boggling. Like, there are so many things that affect us when we go out into the world. And if you think of us as individuals, on a personal level, maybe you have a meditation practice, or you do yoga, or you're tracking your sleep, you're eating healthy, you go running. That's fantastic. You have the agency over yourself as an individual. And then maybe you go to work, you know, maybe you've got a really fun company where you go in and they have these programs, and you have an HR department that's really taking care and trying to provide you access to good food and good programming. But once you step outside of that and you go out onto the streets, now you've got all kinds of stuff coming at you. There's no one that's really in control that's really looking out for your individual happiness or your wellness. And so that's where we think we have this kind of web of all kinds of actors that need to be coming in and providing assistance. And so with all of these, you know, you can kind of, Jan, maybe you can share some of what we did over the 3 days.
Yeah, okay, can do. Yeah, so these were our speakers, our panel of speakers that were online with us. So Peter was our host, Peter and Nicole was our host. So Peter was the co-author of Make a City, and he basically tries to transform cities through the maker culture, and Nicole is of course the co-founder of Transformative Technologies. Then, so each of our advisors actually took on a domain and deep dive into what it means. You can find more about the domain in the link that I shared in chat, about each domain in the link that I shared in chat. And so some highlights of people that actually attended or spoke was Ting Jiang. She's a behavioral economist, and she basically looks at scaled smart city tests, and she's very interested in how individual motivations and theory of the mind actually apply to the context of city design and tech. And then we have Itai Palti. So he runs Conscious Cities, and his work surrounds, asking questions about, what if one day when cities become sentient and have minds, right? How are people going to actually interact with them? And how does that add on to our well-being, right? Are we going to have constantly having this big brother watching us, or can we actually, can cities can actually be a little sister instead, who, play with us and help us transform into better human beings? And then we had Poppy Crumb. She is a chief scientist at Dolby. She's a neuroscientist herself, and she looks at how empathetic technologies can help us connect with each other and ourselves, and try and be aware of this cognitive load that we have, because our attention currently is now one of the most valuable commodities. So her technologies actually help us to bring an awareness to how we use our attention. And then Lauren Sorkin, someone else that we want to give a shout out to. She's the executive director of the Global Resilient Cities Network, and she has tons and tons of cases and best practices on how flourishing cities and resilient cities can actually be, realized. And of course, one of our other partners, David Tan, he's the assistant CEO of JTC, one of the largest industrial property developer in Singapore. And I think we have some JTC folks on this call as well. So thank you very much for joining us during the summit too. Yeah.
So I think it was kind of like it was almost like a TED style conference where you had some really engaging, amazing speakers come in. This is a smattering of various people that were represented over the course of our conference. And I think it's just incredible to get, aligned people that are kind of motivated, that are coming from the same intention of trying to solve problems and putting them together. And then that's when you get really amazing things happening. And so if you go to the next slide, you'll be able to see, just a few of the people that were able to come along on our journey. I think some of you are here that we've got pictures of. And so not so different from the Permacolony Moonshot Challenge. We're also looking at, engaging with the broader community and having people come in and help us define what are some good experiments? What are some good technologies? What are good methodologies? Are there proven practices? Are there concepts that are out there that might align us to having better outcomes? And so this is really quite a fun opportunity where we're going out and really looking at how we can have an effect on city scale and the happiness that people are experiencing in their daily lives and the fulfillment that they have.
Yeah. Adric.
Yeah.
Wanna tell us what went down?
Yeah, so we've gathered like all these incredible people and brilliant minds and visionaries and thought leaders in all their fields. So what do we do with them? We don't, again, as I mentioned, we don't want just them to listen and to the talks and be a waste of their brilliant minds. So we put together everybody into like different groups and break out to really find connection, because these are people from like different types of domains. You hear someone from behavioral science, urban planner, UX design, so completely different domains. They didn't really have the chance to talk to each other. But as Shane mentioned, complex problem requires complex new ways of thinking and solving problems. So it was very challenging, but we managed to kind of think of ways to get them to really jam and think about ways to ask new questions. So we came up with like some questions or prompts that we want to ask them. We didn't know what the solution is to a flourishing city, and that's why we bring these people together. But we really want them to think and spark ideas and connection to think about what does it take to go from smart city to wise city. What is really the match between well-being, technology, and cities to achieve city-scale human flourishing? What is the technology environment that we need to support this type of transformation for the people who live in the cities? And how can embracing different frameworks, generative design, allow us to interact with one another that is very different from where we are today with the current system that's not supporting that. So you see on the screenshot, like everyone getting in group 6 and just like talking about all these ideas and inspiring each other. And this is just a screenshot of the mirror board, a platform that we use to connect ideas. And at the end of each like 1 hour talk of each day, we got everyone to share what is it that inspired you, what new questions that you have. And then we connect all these different ideas together because that's when magic happens. Magic doesn't happen when you're sitting alone in the room. That's what I experienced after living COVID and like meeting my friends. I just got so many like sparks and ideas just by someone having different perspectives from mine, and then we create this new bigger solution to old problems. So you can see here and at the same time, it's not always very different. There's always like themes that allow for collaboration between different fields. So on the screenshot, you could see the theme of metacognition. So despite everyone having perspectives in different areas, you can see how all converge into a theme of meta-connection. How can everyone connect in a meta level? Like an example will be, what if instead of connecting through a very surface level of, through the capitalistic and materialistic kind of framework, what if we could go into a room powered by technology and feel everyone's heartbeat? So imagine the type of reality that we could all experience together. Imagine how we experience group flow together. Some other themes that came out in the groups that I facilitated just kind of like spark some excitement from you is the theme of including everybody in the design of a city. It made me question, like, in the city that I live in, is it really designed? Did it take my voice into account when considering this is the place that I live in for like 10 years? Did it take into account the intention to not only support me as who I am, but also to become the person that I need to be to transcend beyond my current kind of human potential limitation? And then there's the idea of not leaving the people on the margin behind. There's the theme about how could we scale this design that is both participatory and at the same time allowing that chaos that creates the kind of liveliness and laughter and culture in the city. And the idea, there's also interesting themes about tech versus non-tech. So surprisingly or funnily, even though we bring in people a lot from the tech area, a lot of them are very pro to have a more positive connection to technology. Could technology empower us to use less technology, to be more involved and engaged in nature, to really inspire one another in a more kind of humanistic way? So as you could see, a lot of really interesting ideas, and we're just at the beginning. So if you could go to the next slide, you could see some of at the end of the 3 days, no worries. At the end of 3 days, it was carefully designed so that we started by getting them connected, warm, and start to like kind of diverge, like thinking crazy without limitations, similar to the exercise that Jaden did. And then on the last day, we kind of converge all the ideas together and kind of like start drafting what potential concepts could look like. We're not telling everyone this is going to be a full-blown proposal that you're going to like work with, but if you could just start with something, what would that be? So we gathered some concepts here from everyone's collective ideas. You see like Vision 2050. What if we could envision, everyone could think about what future can look like without having to go through all the difficult experiences of like the policies implemented. What if we could include gamification? There's a concept about intentional slum. Instead of like avoiding it, what if we could design specifically for slum, knowing that there's migration happening with, as Yang mentioned, rising sea level. And then there's the idea of virtual staircase and the mine house, and there's so many crazy ideas.
Yeah, so maybe I'll just jump in. There's a lot of concepts, and the intention was to really inspire this community to come together and think a little differently, maybe leave your hat at the door, your normal way of coming in, and play around with some ideas, play around with some concepts. And so we're currently, a couple of weeks after this, we have collected through those breakout sessions, we had about 90 hours of content that we're starting to lump together and synthesize and link themes together. And so, what Edric was just sharing here, some of these concepts that had come out. We're still in the process of kind of identifying some emergent trends or themes that will probably be the scaffolding for people to come in and start, how do we turn this really crazy idea or this vision into something that could actually be an experiment? And so, this is kind of, this isn't just to get people together and talk. Our goal is to really have some impact. If we are not out there testing and experimenting, then this initiative isn't really delivering on what we're trying and what we're intending. And so this, this next phase that we're coming up to is our ideation phase, and that's coming up in October. So we're trying to kind of get these scaffolding, reach out to communities, look at what do these experiments actually look like. So we're, you know, kind of fleshing out these skeleton ideas. And after that's done, we'll be working with some researchers and people that have been writing grants for their job, you know, to try and get funding for the research that they're doing. So we'll be engaging this community to really flesh out over the course of a couple months, what would a real experiment look like? Who are the different agents that need to be involved? Are we gonna require municipalities? Do we require technology partners? You know, what kind of funding would be required for that? So we're really trying to package these up into a basket of 3 to 5 different experiments that, you know, when we go out, could really change the body of knowledge that exists in the world. And this would be done through the various partners that we've already mentioned some of, and I identified some of these opportunities. So, so I guess for all of you that are on the call today, if this is your first time hearing about it, great. I hope this was a nice sharing session for you. And for those of you that maybe already know what we've been up to, maybe this was a little bit of an update about what we've been up to since the conference. And so one of the things that I think has happened is we've been totally zoomed out. And, you know, one of the things that we tried to do when we were creating this is make it a little different from a standard Zoom conference. And so we were getting together with people to invite them to just come and hang out. You know, if you go to a conference in real life, you get to go and you might bump into someone on the way to the bathroom, or you're grabbing a coffee between segments and you strike up a conversation. And that serendipity, that opportunity to just have these organic conversations is something we wanted to design into this experience. So we have this flourishing jam, which was an opportunity for our delegates to come together and hang out. And so if anybody on the call now would be interested in still participating in one of these hangout jam sessions, we've got a link there, bit.ly/audacities. And we've also got a web, our email address there if you want to reach out to us. And maybe you've got some cool projects, or maybe there's an area that you think would be good served by aligning some of our focus and attention there. This is really kind of still early on in this process. So I guess that's what I would have to say. I invite all of you to come hang out and join us. Jan or Edric, I don't know if you have anything to add.
No,
No,
all
just
good.
excited to connect with
The
everyone.
link doesn't work.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. We'll send it out in a follow-up email after this.
I clicked on it and it works for me.
Oh, okay. Any case, let's sort that out in the chat. But I don't want to push the schedule back any further because we have a very, very special guest online as well. And the next segment is Mistletoe Unleashed. So I'm going to invite Atsushi and Joginda to turn on their web cameras and unmute themselves. And Atsushi, I'm going to stop my screen share and you can take over.
Okay. Right. Okay. Can you see me and hear my voice?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Thank you for joining us. And you know, the Audacity is a quite ambitious project. Alternative universal design of a city. And actually, I involved a lot of smart city projects in the past, and they mostly failed, as you know, because you know, people are so passionate about deploying technology and forget about people aspect, the humanity aspect, you know. And then we decided, okay, yeah, we need to utilize technology and innovation, but I think you need to think about humanity first. I would say humanity rather than human, because human-centric is quite selfish, right? So humanity will include a lot of consideration, including environment and also yeah, things like that. So, and then today I start a new program, Mistletoe Unleashed. So invite founders around the world because Mistletoe is actually a broader community in the world. And maybe I share a little bit about. So we have more than 100 now, almost 200 startup and also venture fund we are supporting across 15 countries, and last 5 years maybe deploy $400 million or something, and from northern part of Europe to Japan, Silicon Valley, and India as well, and also now Singapore, right? So I like to invite the founders, sort of a change maker, try to make the world a better place. So we are actually focusing on the impact, positive impact, and then we are supporting a startup who are trying to make the world a better place. And it requires sort of an unleashing moment, and leapfrogging technology requires. So that's why we like to hear the voice from the startup founders, how to make it happen, and also what was the unleashing moment, things like that. So that's intention. So I think welcome Joginda Prasakti from India. Thank you for coming to Singapore from far, India. Please take it over, please.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you, Atushi, and I hope everyone can hear me.
Sorry,
I'm here.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay.
Great. Yeah. So actually, thank you for the time, and I have just divided this into 3 sections. So the first section is I would just like to tell a little bit about pulse active stations and what we do here, and then after that there will be a small discussion with Atsushi-san, and then in the end there is a personal presentation also about what I would like to offer to the Mistletoe community, and what I would like to collaborate with on something new with the Mistletoe community. So I'll just get started with the first presentation. Yeah. So I'm just yeah. So first of all, once again, I thank the Mistletoe community for giving me this opportunity to be with you all and talk to you. And I'm so glad that even though, of course, it's not a physical meeting, at least we had the opportunity to catch up virtually. So this is Pulse Active Stations. It's the largest network of smart health kiosks in India. Right now, we are in 150 locations in 106 cities across India. We have top government and corporate alliances. We have covered more than 450,000 users. That is just before the COVID pandemic struck, and now some of the sites are in suspended mode. We were adding 1,000 new users every day, and we are waiting for things to get back to normal. We are a Y Combinator company, and apart from that, of course, we are supported by the Mistletoe community and ASICS, which is the Japanese sports equipment maker. These are some of the other famous Y Combinator companies like Airbnb, Reddit, Dropbox. This, of course, you must be knowing about them also. So this is where we are in India. So as you can see, we have covered most of India from the north to the south, to the east to the west. In fact, I'm very happy that we are also in the southernmost point of India, as well as the northernmost point of India. And we are in all types of public places. Basically, what we do is we take our health kiosk and we keep it in public places such as metro railway stations, bus stands, malls, theaters, hospitals, even exhibition centers, and so on. These are some of the photographs of the deployment. As you can see, wherever we keep the kiosk, we have a very good crowd, because what we find is that people generally do want to know about their health, but they don't have the time and the opportunity to go for a health checkup actually. So by placing the kiosk in a public place where people are coming and going, for example, a commuting center such as the metro railway station, then it gets easier for people to know about their health parameters, and then they can take decisions, informed decisions about their health as well as their family's health. These are some of the articles about us in the news. So I'm very happy that we were one of the favorite startups by TechCrunch in Y Combinator Demo Day. Apart from that, even the Honorable President of India, he appreciated what we are doing, and he asked us to place a kiosk in the President's Palace in New Delhi. which we'll be doing. We are working on a few upgrades. Then if you look on the right hand side, you will see that there's a small box which says customer generated content. So the good thing about this is that even though we didn't upload any videos of ourselves to YouTube, we found that a lot of people were taking videos and uploading about their experiences, which goes to show that people are very happy with this. This is a kiosk and the general experience flow. So all the interesting point is all our kiosks are manned. So the advantage of having a manned kiosk is that number one, of course, you create employment. So you have a young boy or girl who's standing at the kiosk, and then they can explain about the benefits of the kiosk and the health parameters to the user, as well as they can also upsell and cross-sell partnership products. For example, we are partnered with Decathlon. So Decathlon is one of the world's largest sports equipment retailer. So they can also sell the Decathlon products to the customer, or insurance, health insurance, and so on. Essentially, we are very strict about data privacy and data security. So the first thing that the user has to do is they have to give a data consent. So there's a proper form which is explained to them by the kiosk operator. Then only after reading the form and they give their consent by touching the touchscreen, then only the system moves forward. Then there's also a disclaimer and a release for pre-existing conditions. For example, somebody might be already having heart trouble or diabetes, and we make sure that those are also covered when we are doing the test. After that, we collect basic data such as their name, the date of birth. Then we show them the different types of tests. They receive a printed report. And this, again, a very important point, that the person on the ground explains the report to the customer. And that also helps to add as a human connect for us. And then there's an SMS to see the report, and that goes to the app. And then the engagement with the customer starts in a different way. That is the digital engagement. What we did is that we started off with the basic testing, that is the body composition analysis. For example, one of the important things that I also came to know is that percentage body fat is actually more important than BMI, because a person might have a good BMI, but they may not be healthy because they may look thin, for example, but actually that's more fat than muscle. So that's why we started off with the body composition analysis to show people that they have to look beyond your weight. So weight is not the only number that you have to look up when you're trying to get healthy. We added pulse rate and SpO2, and also blood pressure and blood sugar. One of the interesting things we did is we added lung function testing, and this actually turned out to be very useful last year because, as you might be knowing, that New Delhi is one of the most polluted cities in the world, and especially around November, December, there's a lot of smoke pollution in Delhi. So that time we did a lot of lung function testing for people in Delhi, and they were very happy to know that. So normal lung function testing is no use to the customer, but when you give a score and you relate that score to the environment, then people start to understand how their lungs are being affected by environmental pollution and what they can do about it. We are also adding diabetic retinopathy, and body temperature has been recently added. This is the kind of report people get. As you can see that the report is very picturesque, and there are a lot of numbers and there are scales, so that person can get a better idea, a visual indication of where they exactly stand. And different aspects of health, we have given scores to them, so that kind of gamifies it. So what we find is that when we gamify these health aspects and people get scores, they start communicating with their peers. So for example, if you look here, right, so if you see this on the right hand side, the photograph, the mall photograph. So I was the operator that time, and I found that when a person comes and they have like a group of friends came that day, that was the first time I noticed it. And when one friend got a score of 9 by 10, the other people all wanted to see whether they could beat that score. So that way the gamification really helps. Instead of presenting a very boring and dull data to people, we give it in a very nice and visual representation. Apart from that, one of the important things we also do is that we made a AI engine which actually gives recommendations to the people on how they can improve their health based on specific parameters. And this also actually, it gets better and better with the more data we collect. Because there's a very important thing which people should know. A lot of standards are actually WHO standards, which are defined for Caucasian males. And those have been continuing forever because there's a lot of pharma companies also which want to use the same standards, Where, for example, we found that blood pressure in India is generally higher, and the same goes for BMI, because we cannot compare, say, a Caucasian male's body type with Indian body type or South Asian body type. So these are some of the recommendations which can get better for us, and which is the point of having a live health data network. As I was telling that once the hard copy of the report is given, then there is an SMS engagement and SMS and WhatsApp also, which enables the person to start linking to our health system, which is online. So I'm happy to inform that even in the COVID pandemic, like when everything is suspended, still people are coming back to us and asking us to connect to the online system so they can see their previous reports. So these are some of the interesting studies we found when we surveyed our customers across India. And as you can see, there are a lot of people who are unwell, but they don't know it. So we actually found that many people don't know they are, they're either pre-diabetic, which is they're about to get diabetic, or they're already diabetic because they're asymptomatic. And the symptoms, essentially in such cases, symptoms will strike, and then there will be no time for them to even, get well or take care of themselves. So we found that a lot, randomly people are coming to us in a public place and finding out that they are unwell. So that is one of the good things which happened by starting the Pulse Active Station network. So we were able to make people informed about what they can do with their health. So based on that only, we actually released in February. We released the largest. We released a research study with the largest such sample size of 400,000 people. And based on this study, we were able to define some new standards, like I said, for BMI, blood pressure, and other health aspects. And it is our intention to release this study on a quarterly basis, or at least a biannual basis. So one of the interesting things is that the kiosk is completely made in India. So I had gone to China before that, and I will explain later about my background and experience. But after going to China, I realized that we can actually make this kiosk ourselves, and we made a completely. It took me about a year, and we designed and developed a completely new health kiosk, and that helped us a lot because we were able to go on customizing it and adding features to it as we went forward. So we got the experience in product design, development, and manufacturing as well. And we also made it look attractive. So it's a very tall device, which is about 7 feet tall, 7.5 feet actually. So you can see it from any place. And the interesting thing why it's so tall is because my Dutch friends came over, and originally it was only 6 feet tall, and my Dutch friends could not, as you know, the people in the Netherlands are the tallest people in the world. So they couldn't fit into the kiosk. So then we made it 7.5 feet, and that helped us because it became a very visible system. And we also added some signage, for advertising. As you can see, there are screens in the kiosk. So that helps us to run messages like public messages or advertisements so people can see them. So ours is a patent pending product. We have already applied for the patent in India. Apart from that, we have gone for CE certification and various even NFT extension and so on. So the point of me telling this also is that, as I will explain later, these are some of the inputs I can offer to the Mistletoe community members. These are the patent application and the certificates which we received for our electronics kiosk. This is my team. So I'm the founder and the CEO, and I am an IoT entrepreneur. I have about 16 years of experience in manufacturing and supply chain, especially for Internet of Things product development. Apart from that, my passion is I'm a full stack developer, both software and hardware. And my colleague is Dr. Vikram Agarwal, who comes with a very rich background of not only being accomplished medical professional, but he's also MBA in marketing and healthcare from one of the prestigious institutes in India, the Indian School of Business. And before joining us, he was heading various hospitals such as the Apollo Group of Hospitals and the Birla Group of Hospitals and so on. So what did we? So this brings me to the end of this presentation, and I just like to say a few points that last April to June we have been our operations have been suspended because the country went into a lockdown, as you might be knowing. But we didn't we didn't stay quiet during that time. In fact, we came up with a few new products during this time. So the first thing we did is that we made we made a new kind of pulse active station, which helps us to collect data and relate it to comorbidity. And this is very important because enough to know that it's not just enough to collect sample of COVID for COVID testing. You should also know that what are the comorbid conditions of the people, because it is highly likely that all of us will get COVID-19 at some point. But it is important to know that how many of us will actually have a chance to survive, or how many of us will have a chance to get sick. And this is very important for governments to know, because based on this, they can actually allocate their resources. Because if you have 1,000 beds and if 10,000 people test positive for COVID, you need to know how many people have to be allocated to those 1,000 beds. So this is what we had come up with for the Pulse Anti-COVID station. Apart from this, so this was actually very extensively covered in the media, and I'm very happy to inform that even Forbes Japan covered it, which was a big milestone for me and the company actually. And apart from that, we also came up with a small kiosk for measuring, for taking care of your office. So what I noticed is that when people are entering an office or any industrial area now in India especially, so you start collecting their temperature, their contact details. Contact tracing is very big now in India. Any place you go, whether it's a coffee shop or it's an office, you have contact tracing. So we thought we'll make it automatic system for that. And we also added SpO2. That's very important now, because actually more and more as we get into this pandemic, we are realizing all over the world that even more than body temperature, it is important to know your blood oxygen level on a regular basis, because a lot of people are literally, they are very unfortunately, they are dying suddenly. They were asymptomatic, but they're dying suddenly, and then people come to know that their blood oxygen had dropped to very low levels. So this is the kiosk which we have made, which we are now placing in different locations. As you can see, it starts with offices and then it goes to industrial areas. So this was about pulse active stations, and I thank you all for listening.
All right. Thank you so much. And there's just some questions I have and I need to ask. And so actually, this is quite amazing, because you taking out some equipment from hospital to the in town, and of course station, for example. So how did you come up this idea? So it's kind of out of the box, right? It's so different.
Yeah. So actually, so how it started in the first place, right? Yeah. So actually, before my 35th birthday, I went for a medical checkup, and then I came to know that because of my lifestyle, I'm pre-diabetic, pre-hypertensive, and basically on the way for a lot of problems. And then I understood that your lifestyle doesn't really matter till you reach a certain age. After that, everything starts affecting. So it's basically like you can drink the whole night, but get up without a hangover if you are maybe 29 or 30. But you can't go on doing that forever, and then somewhere your body will start feeling it. So I started to get into shape, and I had tried many things to get into shape, but what worked this time was that I started using a wearable. So my wife gifted me a Fitbit, and then I started seeing that by just maintaining a very simple point like 10,000 steps a day. So even if I came back home, I would do that 10,000 in my bedroom. So just make sure that I'm sticking to a number. So then I understood the importance of quantification. And when I understood the importance of quantification, I wanted to bring it to everybody in India, because in India we don't have that. It's not a very strong concept. And then I wanted to know how can you take it to the people. So actually there used to be a very common machine called the, if you can see my screen, I'm just, so some of us have seen this in different places in railway stations. Can you see my screen? I just.
You'll need to share it again.
Yeah, I'm just sharing it again. Yeah. Yeah. So if you see my screen, right? So you're seeing this image called it's about. If you see, these are all weighing machine kiosks. So at one time they used to be everywhere in India, in the railway stations, in movie theaters, bus stands, and so on. And I believe they were there in a lot of places across the world as well. And one of the important things about them was that they were fun. So it is not a boring thing which tells you about your weight. It's fun. So the report which comes out, a small token, it always has a prediction, it shows you maybe you're going to meet somebody today, or maybe some actress's photo or something like that. So it was a lot of fun. So that's when I realized to make a kiosk which will make it fun for people.
Well, Jaginda, it's a kind of weird because when I visited India first time, I couldn't understand what it is, right? And then people actually step on it, and then ta-da, it's a big noise, and also some, it's like something entertainment machine.
Yes, exactly. It was fun. Yeah.
That's an amazing moment, and yeah, it's quite interesting. But okay, then what do you think? It's at this moment the physical measurement, mainly, right? So what do you think about emotional measurement or mental measurement, something like that? Do you think that will be available in the future?
Yeah, so actually, EEG measurement is actually taken off quite well. So though it is, in fact, I was very happy to know when I visited Singapore last year, and I was with Jeremy, and then he mentioned that some of his students had also, some of the people he's working with had also come up with this, being able to control the drone through mind. So I think for us, it is a part of our product roadmap to add emotional well-being at the point. And there are two ways we are looking at it. One is, measuring stress through, say, handheld ECG measurement. So you use your fingers and then touch our kiosk, and then you can get a ECG measurement which will tell you the type of stress you have. And the other one is that, if you have an EEG helmet which can measure your stress levels. Of course, there is an issue that there will be a lot of noise because these are in public places, but this is part of the part of our roadmap actually.
Yeah, that's fantastic because physically, mentally, emotionally, in combinations, that's a very important as sort of a checkup, system. And so, final question from my side is that kind of unleashing moment or leapfrogging moment. I don't know, in the past or now or future, what do you think about your unleashing moment and leapfrogging moment?
Yeah, I think the unleashing moment is, there are two types of unleashing moments I would look at. One type of unleashing moment is the spread of this network. So an interesting thing which Atsushi, when it's actually written still on my board in the office, it says live health data network. So you imagine that these kiosks are there all over the world. And then if you want to, for example, you're fighting a pandemic and you want to know if people have symptoms. So all you have to do is ask it a question that, ask the system a question that how many people around the world right now have flu symptoms? And because it's in a public place, we get a very good idea. And that actually is a very big unleashing moment, which if harnessed properly can actually help administrations and public health in a very efficient manner to take care of public health with less resources. That is one unleashing moment. The second unleashing moment would be if we can combine this with personal variables. So that actually, so then we are no longer, so one thing you must, one thing I would like to just share with everybody. So a lot of people used to ask me that why haven't you gone the wearable route? So the wearable route, there are a lot of people who already make wearables, like, I myself use wearables. Now I moved from a Fitbit to a Garmin because I started to run, and but at the same time, I felt that there are a lot of people who don't have wearables or who don't know what a wearable can do to them. So these are the people we are first going after with the Pulse Active Station. And once we reach a critical mass, our aim is also to release our own wearable. And when we do that, then that would be a second unleashing moment.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think it's quite important because, providing a easy to access and affordable and also always available, right? So that's actually, I think it's a very different type of a public healthcare infrastructure and foundation. So that'll be great. So you have another, final pitch, not pitch, but final. So, right?
Just before that, I'll just show our 1 minute video. So it's just 1 minute, and then I will go to my next.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
So for I think the 1 minute video, I will just. So I'm just starting a video.
India is a vast country with an ever-growing population. and not everyone has access to basic health screening facilities. But everyone in India, everyone takes the train. That's why we came up with the Pulse Active Station Kiosk. This is a smart health kiosk which we place in train stations and other public places. And at very affordable rates, starting at ₹50, we make basic health screening accessible to all. Each Pulse Active station is manned by our trained operator who explains about the different types of tests and the final report. And together, all our IoT-enabled Pulse Active stations make up the Pulse Active Station Network. And in association with our partners, we are becoming the single point of contact for all healthcare services. One team, 1.3 billion users. That's Pulse Active Stations Network.
Yeah, thanks for watching the video. Now I'll just quickly go over to my personal presentation. So where I would like to just tell a bit about myself to our community members and what I'm looking at to support. How can I support the community members and what I would like to collaborate with. Yeah, I'm just starting that. Yeah. So again, thanks to the Mistletoe Group and the community for giving me this opportunity. So I have, when I first met, my first interaction with Mistletoe Group is through Atsushi-san and then Naho-san. And then I met Jeremy and of course, Mr. Taizo-san. And when I first met everybody, right, it really amazed me and it made me feel like finally I belong somewhere, because there's a group of people, there's a community of people which is actually working on changing the world and in a very interesting way. So it is not that, so the whole point of the Mistletoe community is that the network effect which people are having. So one change actually has the potential to change the entire world and make it a better society for people to live in. And I really found that very fascinating. So I'm very, very glad to be here. And now I'd like to just tell a little bit about myself. In fact, what you see in the corner is actually when I visited Audacity, I found I think that is the Vitruvian Man concept. So I really enjoyed it. And now I'd just like to say, so actually I'm, as I mentioned, I'm a full stack developer. Apart from that, I'm also a hardware designer. And these are few of the inventions I have come up with over the years. So the first one is called Lifeboat. It was very dear to me, but I realized about the market potential after making it. So it was basically a small device which fits to your phone and make sure that your phone never runs out of battery. And also at the same time, it has a panic button in it. And because I found that it doesn't matter how much your battery capacity keeps going on. For example, I use a OnePlus phone now, but you still run out of battery. So your battery booster always ensures that it never runs out of battery and it sticks to your phone. Then I had made a metal padlock for container movement, so that whenever somebody tries to break open the container in the shipping container, you get an alert. Then a thing which was very dear to me is a collapsible suitcase support, because I'm always on the move. And if I leave my house, I don't know when I will come back. So I think, one of our Mistletoe members, Naho-san also is the same way. So so I always have to carry a very heavy suitcase, and there are a number of stairs I have to negotiate. So I made a small suitcase support, which I can pack in the suitcase and carry my suitcase over it. Then at the same time, when I was riding a bike, I realized the need for a bone conducting hands-free device. And another interesting device which I had made was a handled ECG-based stress monitor. So the main thing was, so whereas there are a number of ECG-based, handled ECG-based devices, the important thing is how do you make it relatable to the person, to the user. So for that, you have a stress score, so which is what I made. Apart from that, some of my software creations is, I had made a software called Rootlishi, which we used for a local food delivery startup where I was part of, and it was a route optimizer. Then I also worked with our police forces in the country for making a call network analysis system. And then one of my favorites is, an X-Bar, which I had exhibited in the UAE, which is an app-controlled cocktail maker. So these are actually projects which I have taken up at different times for my personal satisfaction. That's why some of them, that's why they have not been commercialized. But the point of me discussing these with you is to show you that my interest and capabilities. Then what I offer to the global mistletoe community. So by now I have a lot of real world experience and connection in public health because of pulse active stations, then logistics, and of course Internet of Things. And when I say logistics, is because before pulse active stations, my previous company, we were designing and manufacturing GPS tracking equipment for logistics sector. Then rapid scaling up. So for example, in 3 months, actually, we went from 30 locations in India to 150 locations across India. So that is where the experience in rapid scaling up comes in. Then these three things: rapid product research and development, commercial manufacturing, and quick go-to-market. This is very dear to me because I find there are a lot of people, they have a very good product idea, but it's, the William Shockley, right? So he said that, a lot of people have ideas, but in the shower, right, you think you're having a shower, you have a good idea, but unless you get out there and make the idea, it doesn't really matter. So I find that a lot of people get stuck in this. So they go on working on their products. I know people who started off at the same time as me, maybe 3 years ago, but they're still working on their products. Their products have not even seen the light of day. Whereas I'm in favor of, quickly get it out to the market, get it tested by the actual customer, and then decide for yourself whether you want to commercialize it or you take it ahead. So along this way, I built up a very good knowledge about the supply chain and how to do this. So I'll be very happy if somebody has some product development to do in mind and I can help them take it to the market. Then another personal passion is calisthenics. And I find calisthenics very, very fascinating because I never knew that by controlling your body, you can actually take it to next levels of functionality. So this also, and the interesting thing about calisthenics is that you're always a learner. I'm still a learner in calisthenics, and I'll be very happy to team up with anybody who's also learning calisthenics and in a way gymnastics. So what I would like to collaborate on. So one of my personal concepts which I'm really interested is about the body battery concept. So actually, Garmin came out with the body battery concept in the recent. It's there in the apps recently, but it doesn't really make sense. I'm sure they have used some logic behind it, but as a person who quantifies everything I do, I don't find that to be very very useful for me. Then recently, I was having a discussion with Atsushi-san, and then I realized that this is something which really needs to be worked on because you have so much data from all your variables. Like I use a Garmin, I use a Fitbit, I use so many variables, but all those numbers, some of them make sense to me for some of the activities, but how do you correlate them all to make sure that they come together? And then they tell you, okay, this is how much energy I have, and this is how much energy I don't have, and this is what is affecting me. Sleep is a subject which is very rarely studied. But I find that sleep is a very, very critical component for our human functioning. People take pride in sleeping for 2 hours, 3 hours and being functional, but you can't go on doing that forever. At some point, it takes a toll. So these are the things I want to quantify. And when you can quantify these things, then it comes into a social network actually. How can you take it to the community? That's why I have two images here. One image is the body battery concept for the individual. And the other is how do you take this to, a wise city, like Jeremy just mentioned in the chat, a wise city, right? So wise city is something where the people who are in the wise city, they know when they have to take rest, they know what they can achieve right now. So these are very important things because it's not just physical, it's also mental. And of course, it has an effect on immunity. And this is also one of the things we should link it to because the COVID-19 pandemic has brought us to the understanding that we can expect to be in this kind of pandemics for the next 3 or 4 years at least, So here I offer my technical resource and of course, Dr. Agarwal on my team who's also on the call. My teammate, Dr. Gawal. So he's a medical expert. And if anybody else would like to collaborate on this, their passion is enough and I would like to do the collaboration. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. I think that's great because as Yang mentioned that, Jaden mentioned that we are looking for mentor network, right? So definitely please join us as mentor and also collaborator from technical perspective, especially a lot of people actually struggling to develop the hardwares. As you know, it's not easy, right? Supply chain wise and also design wise. It would be great, of course you are so busy, but you have some spare time. It would be great to help us and then, support, young guy. Of course, you're still maybe young, but you know, there are much more young
I'm going to be
people.
40. Yeah.
So you are in between, right? So that's why I think it's great, you know, for you to support young guys from various aspects. Thank you so much. Okay, any question from audience, or otherwise maybe John will take this over, I guess, or somebody.
I had a question on what types of data are you able to collect? So I saw that you had things for you know, pre-diabetics and hypertension. So I was curious if you could share with us some of the sensors that you're able to use to get this information.
Yeah, so actually the sensor which I started off with is actually the body composition analyzer. So that is so that was developed in-house, and the body composition depends on you know, impedance method of body fat measurement. So there are basically, according to the impedance theory, so there are 4 compartments in the body, that is muscle, fat, water, and protein. And a very mild electric current, about a milliampere, is sent, microampere is sent through the body at different frequencies. At different frequencies, it gets a different impedance resistance from the body. And then there are some empirical formulae which some of them are standard and some of them we developed in association with the hospital. So that is the first sensor. So basically, you have you might have seen these machines in gyms. So you have, you know, you put your hands on the body fat analyzer and your feet on the body fat analyzer, and then there's a current which goes through the body. So that is one sensor. Then for the SpO2 and the heart rate, we use a probe, like a SpO2 probe. And but now I'm working on a non-contact SpO2 probe, because one of the interesting things I found is nobody wants to, you know, use the same probe again and again, especially because of the COVID pandemic. And a non-contact SpO2 probe is possible, but there are some accuracy issues with that. So actually, right now, what we are doing is we are trying to refine the software algorithm to ensure that there is there's a better accuracy between, say, an Omron finger probe and a non-contact SpO2 meter. Then for the ECG also, because we already have electrodes for the hands and feet, so we are able to take some. So it's not a 12-lead ECG, but the whole point is not for, you know, it's a public place and you're just there for 1 minute or 2 minutes. So it's not that we are giving you a medical grade. We want to give you a medical grade experience, but we don't certify it as a medical grade experience. And then for the EEG, the mental things, we wanted to make a helmet, so we are still working on that. So these are basically it's different sensors which are coming in together to give you the complete picture.
Yeah, that's great. I think Yoginda can develop all those, you know, combination technology into one for maybe flourishing project, you know, I'm sure. So it could be great, maybe separately Shane and also Yoginda talk to each other, maybe how to collaborate, you know, for that angle. That'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering also if there's any chance that in all the data that is collected, that you're able to see seasonal trends, especially like now we're talking about outbreaks, yeah, and whether like maybe there's a shift in the certain period of the year that people are suffering from maybe higher sugar or high blood pressure, yeah, then you will be able to advise people that this might be due to certain reasons. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting actually. So you're saying relating the health parameters to seasonal, to, you know, temporal basis, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, that's very interesting. So we did publish a study, like I mentioned, but yeah, the temporal part of it we have to actually analyze. So there's a lot of things we can do. So we do have a lot of data. In fact, if somebody wants to study the data anonymously also, right? So we can, I mean, it's anonymous data. So we have a proper data privacy agreement also. So we can actually give you some of the data, so you can, you know, run through it and let us know what you feel about the analysis. So we have, you know, date, time, and location apart from all the other data. If you would like, we would be very happy to share it. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much. So then this conclude this first version of Misuto Unleashed. So every month, you know, we're gonna invite, you know, founders and also startup guys. So stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Ooh. Yes, so the next segment is actually a casual social hour, or half an hour or 15 minutes with the time left, or you can stay on as long as you want. we're going to be going to another platform. So everyone will leave Zoom and go into Gather Town, and that's where we can experience an out of the usual online social interaction. Yeah, works best on Chrome and Firefox. That's right. So thank you all for joining us, and see you in Gather Town.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. See you next month.
See you next month.
See you next month.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I'm going to leave this group open for just a little while so people can click on the GatherTown link. And then I'll close it. And the GatherTown link will be gone. Secret party.